Welcome to our first BluGreen Solution virtual counter day. And with me, I'm Chris Pine, is Norm Bartlett from Creative Sensor Technology. Thank you for joining us, Norm. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some flow sensors and the CST products. And I've had a fair amount of experience over the years with flow sensing, and not as much as Norm, of course. And it's been kind of interesting the last few years because with all of the connected controllers that are now getting to be extremely popular in the residential market, all these Wi-Fi controllers, we have the possibility for adding a lot of flow sensing nowadays. So Norm, I know that we have a couple of exciting newer products, not totally new, two products that are kind of geared toward flow sensing and these Wi-Fi applications. Tell us about the two products, those ELFs, and the differences between the two, because I know that's a big question for a lot of people.
Okay, hey, glad to join you, Chris, and yeah, let's try and straighten out a couple of pieces of information, or maybe not that, but just the confusion a little bit. We've got the website screen up here to show you that we have this new product called the ELF, and ELF is not the guy out of the Keebler cracker ads, but it's actually a shortened version of calling it an enhanced low flow sensor. And when we built this thing and developed it, we were shooting for was something that would measure down to low flows that are good for the drip requirements that are coming out now. And as many of you know, we've got zone valves now that will go down to 0.2 gallons per minute and operate. And so we said, well, let's shoot for a flow sensor that'll get down to low flows like that. So we developed the ELF, and basically it came out on the market in 2019. And the application for it is not only this low flow drip application, but also because of the size and the cost and the range that it covers, it's a great flow sensor for residential use. And I think we finally have a product that can be used with all of these connected controllers that you know will hit a nice spot. They have a list price of $149 on them, so that you're not trying to sell somebody a $300 or $400 or $500 flow sensor with a $200 controller. And we back them up with the same kind of warranties and I think quality and reliability that we've had with our whole existing line of products. So as we can see from these pictures, I'm not sure I can point to the screen, but got a couple of things to hold up here. You know, this is the 3/4 inch version, and we made it in PVC. It has socket connections on the end, and very much like the rest of our sensors, has a big nut on the top. And once you take the nut off, you can pull out the insert part of the sensor. And again, no surprises here. It is still a paddle wheel type of sensor. And I have a lot of experience with paddle wheels, and I'll be honest with you and say that in spite of the fact that there are a lot of different technologies on the market, this to me is still the best kind of a flow sensor for the irrigation, residential, commercial, agricultural, landscape, doesn't matter what, but we still think this is the best technology to use for this application. It's reliable. It's easy to troubleshoot, it's easy to understand, it's self-cleaning, it's durable, it can live in an underground environment, it doesn't have to be removed in the winter, it has very little friction loss through it, so you're not losing water pressure just to run through a meter, and they're simple to install and take out of the system and put in the system. So it comes either in this white PVC material, and I don't have a T with me, but you'll notice the other one is a black, it's Norel material. A lot of people call it glass-filled nylon. It's the same material. It's a lot of zone valves are made out of. And this comes in a same kind of configuration, but it has threaded male pipe thread ends on it so that it can be easily used with any kind of piping materials, as long as you convert it to a thread connection. And the nice thing about Norel is that it also can be used inside of buildings where PVC is usually not allowed by building codes. So the Norel, we think, is obviously going to be the more popular size. Both configurations go to the same flow rates. These will go from a low of measuring 0.2 of a gallon a minute up to a maximum of about 20 gallons a minute. So you've got a one flow sensor that covers pretty much a complete range of, very, very small drip systems up to 20 gallons a minute, which will cover the vast majority of residential applications. So there's two different sizes, basically the same flow characteristics, the same kind of pressure ratings, things like that are all the same. But there are two very distinct things that I want to talk about a little bit more, and that's the two different outputs of these. When we first brought it out, we basically used the same impeller that we have in our FSI series sensors, and we have a very similar output. It's a 2-wire sensor, has a red and a black wire, hooks into the same flow inputs that most irrigation controllers that measure flow have been using since the mid-'80s. It produces a pulse, which is actually a frequency. So we have a digital signal that's proportional to flow. The faster this little impeller spins, the higher the frequency output. We convert that frequency into a flow rate by using specific calibration constants that we call the K and the offset numbers. Our flow sensors pretty much interface with every irrigation controller on the market today that uses a frequency input. We came out with this device, and just about the time we were coming out with this device on the market, another company that you may have heard of, a company called Hunter, came out with what is now a very popular series of controllers called the Hydrawise controllers. Hydrawise controllers were not developed in the US, they were developed in Australia, and not following the same pattern that was kind of the de facto sensor input that we use in this country. It had a scale pulse, very much like a domestic water meter. So all of the Hydrawise controllers really measure one pulse equal to a volume of water like a gallon. So it's either 1/10 of a gallon or a gallon, similar to other water meters, and some of the other products like Netafim or Bermad sensors also produce a pulse. So we came out with this on the market, and even though the Hydrawise controller was advertised as being able to accept a frequency, we found that the circuitry had some limitations. We weren't exactly compatible with it. So what we did is we came out with a newer version, and this new version is what we call the SP3, which the SP stands for scale pulse, and the 3 stands for the fact that it has 3 wires. Now what we do with it is we use the blue and the white wire as our sensor inputs, just like all the other Hunter sensors say use the blue as the sensor input, the white is the common for the sensor input. But we add a 3rd wire, which is a red power wire, because what we need is to power the circuitry that's inside the sensor electronics. So the difference between the two, the SP3 has 3 wires, our conventional 2-wire frequency unit, 2 wires, the red and black. Other than that, the performance is the same. They both, like I said, whether it's the 3/4 inch size or the 1 inch size, whether it's the scale pulse or the 2-wire frequency, all the specs are the same. They both require the same amount of, they have a pressure rating of 240 PSI. They have virtually no pressure drop across them, and they go from the 0.2 to the 20 gallon a minute range. The other thing that probably is worth noting on these is we also developed the unique shape of this T, which we have a patent on. And obviously the sensor is not in the center of the pipe. It's actually push down the distance of the pipe to the outlet side. The reason for that is that we've incorporated pipe straightening into the sensor T itself. What this means is, for the first time, you can put a sensor like this in a line without the requirement of straight pipe upstream and downstream. This could go in a system where you had tight configuration, and maybe you came right out of a manifold or right out of a pump discharge and had to go into a 90-degree elbow or had to go into a shut-off valve because you didn't have the room. You can now do this with this device. And also with our threaded units, you can actually thread a master valve right on the downstream side of it and have a flow sensor and a master valve in a residential configuration that'll fit in a 12-inch valve box. So what we've tried to do with this new line is kind of come up with a very practical way to measure flow on these residential systems. And by doing so, we think, and it's proven itself out by the amount of business we're doing with this product now, that this is going to catch on and become a more and more popular item all the time. So that's it in a pitch.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, Norm. A couple of really important things there, and I know I'll back up on the screen here. I've got the website, and you can see the Norel model up here, just like Norm was describing. And I think that's absolutely key. That potentially can go inside where we'll say plumbing code will allow, but it is rated for that type of an application, and being able to thread that thing right into a master valve is absolutely huge. Just so that all of you are familiar, Creative Sensor Technology has, we don't have time today to go through everything, has several different product categories. There's different types of flow sensors. There are saddle flow sensors, brass flow sensors, in addition to PVC tees, in addition to the ELF series. There's also a line of, I'll call them flow sensing solutions, when you have multiple controllers and multiple flow sensors, where you're trying to retrofit onto an existing wire path and you don't have wires in the ground. So hopefully, Norm, you will join me some other time and we'll go over some of the other products you have available too.
Be more than happy to do that, Chris. I know we're limited in time here, so let's save that for the next visit.
That sounds good. You can see the website, creativesensortechnology.com. I'm sure there's a contact us there that you can reach Norm. We're BluGreen Solutions with no E, and this may have gotten to you via social media or by email, so you can always reply to that if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us for our first BluGreen Solutions Virtual Counter Day.
All right, well, bye everybody. I hope you get something out of this, and if not, give us a call or an email and we'll be glad to answer your questions.
Thanks, Norm. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to join you.